What's up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to my channel. We're going to be looking at scary TikToks that, what did it say? Don't watch before you go to bed. Are you scared? I hope so. Here we go. If you're new, hit that subscribe button and go ahead and hit that like button so you don't have to later. I'm trying to get to 500 subscribers by the end of March, which is my birthday, March 31st. So, can you give your girl a little free birthday present and hit that sub button? Thanks, guys. Let's hop right in.
I went to Reddit to find the most unexplained supernatural or paranormal events that people had ever gone through. And this is what I found. I was annoyed with my daughter because she hadn't cleaned up her room in weeks, so when I walked by her room and saw her standing there, I assumed she was doing what I said. A few minutes later, she walked out of the shower in the bathroom with a towel wrapped around her and asked why I was looking at her strangely. When I asked her who was in her room, she looked scared too. I never figured out who was in there, but we didn't clean up the room either. 6 out of 10. Was spending the night at a friend's house as a kid around 12 or 13. Parents weren't home, so we decided to go out, do some ding-dong ditching, get into some young angsty debauchery. We get home and it's around 1 or 2 in the morning. Cue a ringing of the doorbell. Naturally, we think it's the cops or some pissed off neighbor. My friend had a small window that looked out onto the front porch and you couldn't really see into it from outside. So we took a peek at who was calling at such a late hour. Standing at the door was an old woman in a dress and a young boy in a weird newsy outfit. Both were dressed extremely out of period as it was the 90s, and my friend had never seen them either in the neighborhood before. We ducked because we're a bit freaked, look again less than 10 seconds later and they're both gone. Nobody on the street walking away, no cars driving away, they were just gone without a trace. We did not sleep well. That's a good one. That was a good one. 7.8 out of 10. That one was kind of freaky, and they were all kind of freaky, but it makes sense because
in 1983, a young boy was camping with his family on Rowan Mountain in North Carolina. His mother asked him to go into the woods and get water from a well, but when he didn't return, she went to go check on him and he was gone. A massive search party was launched to find him, but with no trace of him, the family braced for the worst. Then, on the 7th day of the search, the boy was found on top of a mountain in an area they had already looked through, healthy and clean. When asked where he had been, he said he was at the well when a tall, faceless man picked him up, brought him to the top of the mountain, and held him in his cabin. After giving a very detailed description of where the cabin was, the police were eager to go and confront the guy. The park superintendent raised his hand and said, "Guys, it's pointless. There's no cabins on Rowan Mountain."
That is so creepy.
facts that could save your life.
Wait a minute. We're not going to brush past that. What the fuck was that? What?
One day. If you ever find yourself in a situation where you're being attacked by a bear, first of all, how did we get here? Second of all, if it's a black bear, you want to make yourself seem way bigger than you are and just try to frighten the bear away. Black bears are typically not very aggressive and they would rather run away. They're just like big raccoons, essentially. If it's a grizzly bear, what you're going to want to do is find a car or a big tree or something like that and run around in circles. The bear will continue to follow you, and at a certain point, he's going to get bored and just not want to do it anymore and walk away. And if it's a
I'm sorry. How the fuck do we know these things? I need to quit saying the F-bomb. How do we know these things? Is there experiments being done with black bears that we don't know about in the woods somewhere? How do you get that job?
polar bear, you're going to want to strip down and throw your clothes at. Polar bears have ADHD like nobody's business.
Yeah, strip off your clothes. Meanwhile...
But of course, if you're caught with a polar bear, that means you're somewhere cold and now you don't have clothes. So that's another issue to deal with, but you know, it's fine. If you ever find yourself in the middle of the night waking up to the smell of gas, do not turn on the light switch. This is because there's probably a gas leak within your house and the spark from turning on the light could literally blow your house sky high.
No way. That's the first thing you're gonna do. How is that not killing more people?
If you or someone you're around has a heart attack, you're going to want to take aspirin, but chew it thoroughly before you swallow it. This causes the aspirin to take effect much quicker and could save your life. And look, I know I talk about a lot of negative things on here, but I wanted to tell you guys some.
What are we looking at? What was the point of that? Wait, that's what it looks like if you have astigmatism? That's what I see. Both my kids have this. Well, two of my kids have astigmatism, so maybe that's what I have. You learn something new every day.
Strongly advised. On June 29, 2007, the Hennepin County Police Department received a call from father of two, Scott Taylor. He reported that his 6-year-old daughter, Abigail Abby Taylor, had just collapsed face first after getting out of a kiddie pool at the Minneapolis Golf Club in St. Louis Park, Minnesota. At first, the family thought that she was having a seizure. However, medical respondents arriving at the scene soon discovered that Abby had a 2-inch deep cut along her rectum, which was missing internal organs. A search inside the kiddie pool's filter revealed several feet of Abby's small intestine. She had sat down on an uncovered drainage hole inside the pool, which sucked out a large amount of her organs. When taken to a children's hospital, doctors removed what was left of her small intestine, and she had to be fed through a feeding tube.
Oh
Unfortunately,
my God.
her condition was practically irrecoverable. She underwent more invasive surgeries, receiving a new bowel, liver, and pancreas. The next year, in early 2008, Abby built up excess fluid throughout her body and had to undergo kidney dialysis. Sadly, her body only began to worsen as her new organs developed post-transplant lymphoproliferative disorder, or PTLD, a type of cancer, prompting her to undergo chemotherapy. By March of
Meaning her body refused all the new organs.
2008, her new liver was failing, and she had suffered countless infections and had to undergo 16 surgeries. At 6:10 p.m.
my
on March
God.
20th, 2008, Abby passed away with her family by her side.
You know, I've heard this theory that okay, why would you? I believe that we choose our life before we come here. Like, we choose what our life is going to be like mainly. But like, some people say, why would you choose a life that would be like that? It's torture, basically. I mean, 16 surgeries after she'd already had several, and she'd already had several transplants that were basically refused by her body, and it sucks when you have infections and you're on antibiotics. Like, that was pure torture for her entire life. I mean, that poor kid. What was the point? Why would anybody choose to come live a life like that? Well, one theory is that the entire family was really having a bad time. They weren't loving each other. They were separating from each other. They weren't doing good. And so the baby or the kid comes into their lives and kind of lightens up the mood and brings them all together. And when she passes away, it has an effect that it brings the family closer together. As a theory, don't come for me. I'm just the messenger. But it helps me make sense of some of these things that are like so tragic for these children, you know? Man.
The Taylor family instantly sued the Minneapolis Golf Club, and by September of the same year, they won $8 million in a lawsuit. Furthermore, the then governor of Minnesota, Tim Pawlenty, signed the Abigail Taylor Pool Safety Act of 2008, which requires daily physical inspections of drain covers and grates in all but residential pools across the entire state.
See, maybe she saved so many other children's lives. I remember myself being a child and being enamored with the whatever the fuck was at the bottom of the pool, like the vent and everything. I wasn't scared of it. I was interested in it, you know? So maybe she saved so many other kids' lives just by doing this. There's a purpose to everybody's struggle, I promise.
Vea, muchachos, vea, los que no crean en los duendes, vea. Vean un duende, vea.
What the hell is that?
Un duende, me acabo de aparecer acá en la Gran Colombia.
Duende. We've heard of those from Night God, haven't we?
Let's see if you have arachnophobia. There's 5 levels in this phobia test, going from easiest to most difficult. So if you're too scared to make it all the way to the end, then you probably have arachnophobia.
She's so hot with his red hair and that red dress on.
Let's begin. How would seeing this make you feel? What about if you looked up and saw this?
Oh, hell no.
3, imagine this crawling on your arm.
I can't even look.
This staring at you.
Stop.
We're getting to level 5, the most scary level. And I'll also be showing you a video, so get ready.
What's the point in this?
Let me know if you made it all the way to level 5 and which phobia I should do a test.
Fuck you. Oh. Fuck. What is the point in showing people that? Talk about torture.
For next. Follow for more.
Ugh.
Things that bother you, they never bother me. I feel happy and fine.
Perfect song to follow up the spider video.
Haven't got a lot, I don't need a lot. Coffee's only a dime. Living in the sunlight, loving in the moonlight, having a wonderful time. I climb every mountain.
What are those noises I'm hearing? Me? What was it? I don't know. I didn't make any noise.
You didn't go, what? Or something
Yeah, I
like
did do that, yeah.
that? What was it?
I was watching a video and there was a big spider and they killed the spider and a bunch of little spiders came off of it. Yeah. My mom checking on me from screaming.
2008, Brandon Swanson was on his way home from a college party, but instead of taking the fast route, he took the unusual long route, which cut through back roads. After driving for a bit, he crashed his car into a ditch, which he couldn't get out of. He called his father to pick him up and gave him his exact location. For the next hour, they would try to find one another, but they just couldn't. Brandon eventually said that he saw the lights coming from the town, so he was just gonna walk over to them. Brandon and his father were on the phone the entire time, and after walking for a bit, he suddenly said, "Oh shit," and the call ended. The next day, Brandon's car was found, but what was strange is that it was 20 miles away from where he said he was. To this day, nobody knows what happened to Brandon, and nobody knows what he saw.
This just happened. A whole family in Pennsylvania have made a joint decision to unalive themselves for seemingly religious and political reasons. Here's the full story. This just happened, episode 9. Viewer discretion is strongly advised. On January 25th, 2023, the West Manchester Township Police Department were called to the Dobb family household in York County, Pennsylvania, after a neighbor called to do a welfare check on them. When they went to their backyard, they found the entire family, the daughter, 26-year-old Morgan Dobb, the father, 62-year-old James Dobb, and the mother, 59-year-old Deborah Dobb, all shot dead. When an investigation was quickly prompted, they discovered multiple notes inside the house that indicated that they purposely committed unaliving out of their own Christian beliefs. In one note, the family believed that evil, quote, has mounted against Morgan, end quote, but does not go into more detail. 2 other notes were discovered that describe how the mass unaliving particularly unfolded. The first note, written by James, dated the day before the horrific incident, stated, "With only 2 guns and me being shaky, my wife Debbie pulled the trigger for me." The second note, signed by Deborah, read, "I was too shaky, so my daughter pulled the trigger for me." People that knew the Dobb family stated that they were never shy letting anybody know what their beliefs were when it came to religion and politics.
Wait, how did they write the note post-shooting? Plot hole.
And they were diehard supporters of former President Donald Trump. The household's front yard was flooded with political signs, supporting Trump during the elections, and being proudly pro-life when the Supreme Court case of Roe v. Wade got overturned. The daughter, Morgan, was homeschooled for religious purposes, and she also posted disturbing videos of herself on YouTube. In her last video, posted in November of last year, it sees her speaking in a British accent, saying that she gave up being the Queen of England, and that she is a prophet of the Most High God.
I rule and reign with Jesus in heavenly places. I'm a king and a priest unto my God. Yahweh, Elohim El Elyon, I am not the Christ. I am not Antichrist. I am not the Christ. I am not false prophet. But I am a prophet of the Most High God. And I'm ready to roar for him. Lord will roar from Zion.
Interesting facts you never knew, part 7. Behind me in this photo is a steel door, and this is attached to a lighthouse.
So sad.
I'm sure that many of you guys know that the ocean can be extremely powerful, but the waves here were actually so powerful that they dented and bent the steel door. And for our second interesting fact, or rather place, there's this place from the 1920s called the Cabaret of Hell. As you can see, this is a very demon-like scene going on with a lot of really weird contorted faces in the walls, and this is what the door looks like. Pretty freaky, definitely would make a really good modern day horror house, but since then it has been demolished. Follow for part 8.
Red. Red. Red.
Disturbing facts you
Gotta see
wish
that
you could
again.
Disturbing facts you wish you could unhear. Part 1. This deer suffers from CWD, also known as zombie disease. It infects the deer's brain, causing it to slowly rot away. There's a Nile crocodile named Gustav who's reported to have killed over 300 people. The ancient Romans had public bathrooms with zero privacy. What's worse is that they passed around a sponge attached to a stick to wipe with. The most painful insect sting goes to a bullet ant. The Maui tribe in Brazil initiates their young men by making them wear gloves filled with these ants for up to 5 minutes. Just to show you how painful it really is, here's a video of Coyote Peterson getting stung by one.
Oh, it's stuck in my arm! It's stuck in my arm! Okay, it's off, it's off, it's off! Oh my gosh!
Oh, those beavers, how they hypnotize. Yeah, where'd you get those eyes?
This is...
Oh my god. That was the slowest jump scare I have ever experienced.
Why you should never use Tinder. In 2017, a guy downloaded Tinder and in just the first few minutes, he got a match. He messaged the girl, starting a conversation, and eventually they agreed to meet at a public park at 10 p.m. When the time came, he got to the park, but the girl was nowhere in sight. He messaged her, but she didn't respond. He sat down on a bench thinking that she was lying, but that's when he got a message from the girl. She said, "Come to the bathroom behind you." His heart dropped as he turned around and saw the silhouette of a man. At that moment, he ran for his car. He turned around and saw a disturbing looking man chasing after him. He got in his car, put it in drive, and drove off as fast as possible. When he got home, he blocked the person and swore to never use Tinder again.
Facts that could one day save your life. If you ever get carjacked and the person tells you to drive, do this. Put your seatbelt on, drive at a high speed and crash. Chances are he wouldn't have been wearing a seatbelt, so will have gone flying. You can then get out of the car and run as fast as you possibly can. If you ever see a rescue dog on its own without its owner, follow it. The person could be in danger and you may be able to save their life. If you're ever being followed or think you're being followed, make 4 right-hand turns in a row. Then if they're still following you, drive to the nearest police station. If you get kidnapped in the back of a car, do this. Unwire the brake lights. Therefore the car will most likely be pulled over by the police and you'll be able to get out to safety.
So I think probably the creepiest thing that...
That's a good idea. I've heard about people doing that. But now they make trunks with like a big, in the very middle of the trunk door, there's a big pull switch kind of thing that you just pull down and it opens the trunks. So, yeah.
It's ever happened to me. It just happened. When I woke up this morning, my phone said that my storage was full, so I went to my photos to delete some, and the very first one was a photo.
Is it just me or is he turning fucking green?
Taken last night of me asleep in my bed. It was an overview photo.
No, he's definitely fucking green.
And the creepy part is I'm home alone with my 10-month-old daughter. My wife's been out of town in Colorado for a week. I live in Washington. There's no way that my 10-month-old could have taken the photo because she sleeps in a crib in one room over, and there's no way she could have crawled out of her crib, came into my room, got my phone, and then found a way to stand like 5 feet above my bed and take the picture. It's not possible. And even if she did, there would be a notification on the app for her camera. So I'm super freaked out right now. I feel like there's someone in my house. I feel like there's someone watching me, and I don't know what to do.
I think you should be more concerned with the fact that he's turning green.
What the heck is that?
That's a big bitch.
Absolute fuck is that?
starting to regret that I stopped at this rest stop.
That's either the trumpets from Jesus coming, Bigfoot, or one of those angels that was like trapped under the Nile and it's escaped and it's on the loose.
And they say Bigfoot isn't real? I don't ever want to stick my arm out the window. I can't believe.
Officials have issued an urgent warning as a new zombie drug is sweeping US cities and bringing deadly consequences. Xylazine, otherwise known as Trank, seemed to first appear in Philadelphia before migrating west to San Francisco and Los Angeles. It is intended to sedate large animals like cows and horses, but more recently, people have begun abusing it at increasing rates. It's being called the zombie drug because side effects of this drug can include raw wounds that become severe and spread rapidly, and if left untreated, can result in rotting flesh or even amputation. A number of users shared their experience with the drug to media outlets, saying, "I'd wake up in the morning crying because my arms were dying. Until 9 months ago, I never had wounds. Now there are holes in my legs and feet." Xylazine has now been discovered in 36 states.
That is so sad. It's worse than heroin. Oh, that's creepy.
Why are all of these coffins hung up and on show in China? Yeah, I know. What the hell? Now, these are known as the hanging coffins, and I mean, it looks pretty weird, doesn't it?
What the
I mean, look at
fuck?
the floor. Look how flipping many coffins there are. What the hell? Throughout the years, there's been so many conspiracy theories about these. Some people say there's like vampires in them. But what actually is it, and why are they there? They are simply coffins. And this is an ancient tradition which goes back centuries. Apparently this will help you with, you know, getting to the afterlife. So they basically have all of these coffins stacked up, and these high profile ones are even hung up. Like, it's crazy. But I mean, if it helps them get to the afterlife, cool.
This just happened. An Iowa mother and father drowned their baby to death for crying minutes after birth. Here's the full story. This just happened, episode 6. Viewer discretion is strongly advised. On November 9th, 2022, news outlets publicized the horrific story of Fort Dodge, Iowa couple Taylor Blaha, 24, and Brandon Thoma, 31, in being charged with first-degree murder with the drowning of their newborn, Kayleen Lee Blaha. This inhumane incident occurred less than a month prior, on November 16th, 2022. On that evening, Brandon helped out Taylor give birth to the baby girl inside the bathroom of their apartment. Kayleen was born alive, crying, moving her arms and legs, and opening her eyes. In order to help ease the pains associated with the birth, Taylor asked Brendan to give her the drug methamphetamine, or for short, meth. Then, Kayleen was cruelly given meth. The couple had no intentions of keeping the baby, but instead planned to allow Taylor's sister to adopt her. However, once the baby was born, both, under the influence of hardcore drugs, became nervous that Kayleen's crying would alert neighbors to the situation and that law enforcement would be contacted. In order to stop the wailing, the two placed Kayleen in the bathtub, which was about half full of water, and placed both of their hands on the baby's chest, forcing her underwater, ultimately killing her. Once the baby was held underwater for an extended period of time, Brandon removed the body from the bathtub, placed her in a plastic storage container, wrapped her in multiple layers of trash bags, and then put her inside of a backpack that he carried her out of the apartment. The two were furthermore concerned that if law enforcement became involved in their situation prior to the baby dying, then they would learn that the baby had meth in her system, and then their 2-year-old child would be removed from their care as a result, with both being charged with child endangerment. Brandon left the apartment during the early morning hours of the next day, November 17th, with the backpack containing Kayleen, and returned later with it empty. He disposed her in an undisclosed area. Unfortunately, as of making this video, December 15th, 2022, Kayleen's body has yet to be found. 5 days after the incident, on November 22nd, 2022, the Iowa Department of Human Services, or DHS, received a call from Taylor, who was then in a hospital for post-pregnancy treatments. She told the DHS the entire story, including that Kayleen had been buried in an unknown location. That's when authorities finally got involved with the case. By the next day, the police raided their apartment and found remnants of a baby's umbilical cord. Additionally, authorities seized both Taylor and Brandon's phones. Both devices included information on how to force a miscarriage, in addition to large conversations about disposing Kayleen. Those texts, sadly, did not give a specific location on where Kayleen is buried, only expressing that she's in some wooded area. The investigation further indicates that Brandon was indeed responsible for removing the body of the child once it was killed from the apartment and discarding it so it could not be located, all to be utilized as evidence of a crime against Brandon and/or Taylor.
Let's see if you have the
That is the worst shit I have ever heard. We have to just move on.
thalassophobia. There's 5 levels in this phobia test, going from easiest to most difficult. So if you're too
If
scared
you
to
show
make
me
it all the way
spiders
to the
again,
end, then
bitch.
you probably have thalassophobia. Let's begin. How would jumping into this swimming pool make you feel? What about sitting on the edge of this underwater cliff? Now for level 3, imagine you're on a boat and you see this in the water. Then imagine if you saw this beneath you, how would you feel?
Oh,
now
hell
level
no.
5 is the most scary level, and I'll also be showing you a video, so get ready.
What's the matter with you? Get out of there.
Let me know if you made it all the way to level 5 and which phobia I should do a test for next. Follow for more.
If you're alone right now, don't watch this video. In 1999, a man was hunting up in the mountains when all of a sudden a huge blizzard came out of nowhere. He didn't have time to make it back to his camp, so instead he took refuge in a nearby cabin. He knocked on the door and heard footsteps coming from the inside, but nobody answered. He knocked again, and that's when the door slowly opened and a man's voice said, "Come inside and lay on the couch." He walked in and thanked the man, but he wasn't saying anything. He didn't think anything of it, so he just lied down on the couch. He shut his eyes, but the man wasn't leaving. He was just watching him. He started getting creeped out, but that's when the man started walking closer. He didn't think twice to jump out of the couch and run as fast as he could out of the cabin. What happens next is truly terrifying, like for part 2.
I hate it when they
If
do
you're
that.
alone right now, don't watch this video. Part 2. He didn't think twice to jump off of the couch and run as fast as he could. He ran into the freezing cold forest, not looking back. After about 15 minutes of running, he stumbled across another cabin. He knocked on the door and was greeted by a couple in their late 40s. They brought him in and asked him what he was doing outside in the freezing cold, so he told them about the experience he just had. The couple looked at each other terrified. Then the woman looked at him and said, "The man you're talking about was murdered 4 years ago."
Here's some of the scariest
No.
things that have
That's a
happened
good
on
story.
live TV. On August 19th, 1987, a broadcast from the KNBC studios in Burbank, California was
I
taking
love
place.
these.
Everything was going as planned. That was until a special guest entered the room.
Now, one of the nicest things about shopping by mail order... Pardon me? What is this?
A man named Gary Stolman entered the room brandishing a firearm which has been blurred to accommodate TikTok's guidelines. He managed to gain access to the studio by claiming to be a guest of one of the station workers. He pointed the firearm at KNBC journalist David Horowitz and ordered him to read a written statement.
When I began receiving disturbing calls from my parents, which led me to believe that something terrible was going on.
This statement, prepared by Stolman himself, claimed that his father Max, who worked as the KNBC pharmacist reporter, was, quote, not his biological father, but a clone created by the CIA and alien forces. Despite
No
Horowitz
way.
remaining calm, he later stated that he was frightened but remained calm so the situation did not get worse. After the statement was finished, Stolman placed the weapon on the desk and admitted it was an unloaded BB gun after being taken into custody.
Wow. Oh, man. He wanted the truth to get out real bad, didn't he? NPC, non-player character. Do y'all really think we live in a matrix or a simulation of some kind? Let me know down below. I'm so interested to see what you have to say. Ew, what the fuck? That's raw meat.
Things
Raw
caught on
meat.
home security.
It didn't even pick up that phone.
Top 3 facts you won't believe. Number 3, the fussy bivalve, also known as the soda sea creature, mostly because of its reaction with carbonated drinks, automatically reacting their defense mechanism. As a member of the sea squirts, they, as their name hints, squirt by forcing pressure to remove liquid when they themselves are removed from water. Number 2, this bowl of soup is 45 years old and is served in a family-run restaurant in Bangkok. The soup is called nua tuna, and when it runs low, they just add more ingredients, but it is suggested tourists do not eat this, due to their own sensitive stomachs and many deaths. And number 1, this is Ukraine's president in 2004, Viktor Yushchenko, until Russia disagreed with his leadership and continuously poisoned him, which he lived through, but he did develop these terrible skin scars as a result. And for these facts, I hope they were so unbelievable you didn't actually believe them, because they're all lies. The fussy bivalve is just a scene from an old Japanese movie. The bowl of soup is actually cleaned every day, and the last one, well, that one was actually true. But in a time where getting the right information to the right people is critical, it's important to be sure you're viewing from a valid source. And no, your Aunt Jessica's post on Boomerbook most certainly does not count as a valid source.
We need to talk about this photo because Josh Maddox was found inside this chimney with his knees bent over his head, and he had been there for 7 years. So what happened to him, and how did he end up stuck inside a chimney for that long? Allegedly, Josh went out on a walk one day and completely disappeared, until one day a builder from Colorado Springs wanted to demolish his old abandoned cabin. And that's when Josh was found curled up and mummified inside the chimney. But the strange thing is, even though his body was found with its knees bent over his head, there were no injuries or broken bones. The coroner who performed Josh's autopsy believes he crawled up the chimney himself, and he curled up in that position to protect himself from something. But this case gets even more bizarre from here. Not only was Josh found in such an unnatural position, but he was found only wearing a thermal suit. The rest of his clothes were in the cabin neatly folded. So why would he fold up his clothes and then crawl up the chimney? The chimney also had a heavy steel mesh grate built into it, so it would have been impossible for anyone to slide back down the chimney. Many people disagree, but this terrible incident was eventually ruled as an accident, even though we'll never truly know what Josh wanted to protect himself from by crawling up the chimney. Follow for more.
Ghost Girl appears. A polar bear, obviously. He took his clothes off so the polar bear would get distracted with its ADD. Duh.
After earthquake.
Okay, that's enough of that.
45-year-old.
Let's take a look at how to insert a sclera lens while using the S5 system.
Oh, fuck off. Ew.
As you can see, by holding the lens in place,
5-year-old triple murder case, in fact, has just been resolved. Recently Solved Mysteries, Episode 18, The Oklahoma Girl Scout Murders. Viewer discretion is strongly advised. June 12, 1977 was the first day of Girl Scout camp at Camp Scott in Mays County, Oklahoma. 8-year-old Lori Farmer, 9-year-old Michelle Gus, and 10-year-old Denise Milner shared a tent that was farthest from the camp counselor's tent. Around 7 p.m., a thunderstorm hit the area, which made the girls huddle back to their tent. And in the morning of the next day, on June 13th, the camp counselor found a girl's body in the forest.
That's creepy looking.
It was soon discovered that the 3 girls had been murdered, with their bodies being stuffed inside their sleeping bags and left 150 yards from their tent. All 3 had been raped, bludgeoned, and strangled to death. During investigation, a large red flashlight was found on top of the girls' bodies, as was a fingerprint in the flashlight's lens, but it wasn't connected to any individual.
No way.
A bloody footprint of a 9.5 shoe size was also found, and between 2:30 and 3 a.m. on June 13th, a landowner reported hearing, quote, quite a bit of traffic, end quote, on a nearby road. Camp Scott was evacuated and it never reopened. The police had one prime suspect in mind, a man named Gene Leroy Hart. Gene Leroy Hart was a convicted rapist that had been on the loose after he escaped from prison 4 years before this tragedy. Authorities believe that Hart was in the area of Camp Scott when the murders took place, and 10 months later in April 1978, Hart was found and arrested for the crime. While the local county sheriff thought he was, quote, 1,000% guilty, end quote, the local jury ended up finding him innocent. Hart would later return to prison for previous kidnappings, rapes, and burglaries unrelated to the Girl Scout killings, where he would die from a heart attack in June 1979. For 45 years, this unsolved triple murder of 3 young innocent children haunted the state of Oklahoma, as no one else has been charged or suspected for the crime. One sinister note to add is that less than 2 months before the murders, during a training session, a counselor at the camp discovered her belongings to be ransacked and her donuts stolen. Inside the empty donut box was a handwritten note stating in capital letters, "We're on a mission to kill 3 girls in tent 1. The camp counselor treated the note as a prank, so it was therefore discarded.
So she knew it was coming? That's ridiculous. Like, what? How big of a threat do you need to take it seriously? Like, what else would be... On the other hand, like, do y'all ever think, like, when somebody's murdered, you're really murdering an entire family? Because, like, those kids, right? They're 3 kids who would have went on to marry 3 guys or girls or whatever and have their own children. Each 3 of them. So, and then their kids would have kids by now, and their kids would have kids by now. And so, I mean, what is that? Like 20 people that you murdered just by murdering 3 little girls. Bam.
Fingerprints and DNA collected from the crime scene would be repeatedly tested in an effort to find the culprit. In 1989, DNA testing revealed that Hart's DNA was found on several pieces of evidence. In 2008, authorities conducted a new DNA test on stains found on one of the sleeping bags' pillowcases, but the results proved inconclusive because the samples were, quote, too deteriorated to attain a DNA.
But it doesn't matter because they can't charge him due to the due process law. They can't charge him again for the murders of those children.
Profile, end quote. In 2017, $30,000 in donations were raised by the sheriff in order to do more sophisticated tests using the latest technology. This all eventually led up to May 5th, 2022, when authorities officially determined that the DNA linked to Jean Leroy Hart, correcting one of the state's most disheartening cold cases.
Here's some of the most disturbing things found in food. Part 2. If you are eating or have a weak stomach, please skip or proceed with caution. In 2016, a man films himself opening a Capri Sun after his 4-year-old said the juice wouldn't come out. This is what he found.
The 4-year-old was trying to drink it, and this is what it's inside. Nasty.
Well, what is it?
Looks like mold.
Sadly, this isn't the only incident to occur. Many other videos show people opening up their own Capri Suns to find the same thing or worse hidden within the pouch. So next time you go to drink one, make sure you check the bottom to make sure no surprises await you.
Yeah, because see, they used to have, like, the bottom used to be that silver aluminum material or whatever, so you couldn't even see inside of it. So now they have a rule that they have to make the bottom visible, like see-through. Ugh. It's like one of them old 1980s video cameras.
I worked a 10-hour! All I want is Wingstop!
That's a little excessive.
Why?
That's a little excessive. CEO is angry.
I'm fucking starving, Swin! What did you eat today? I ate nothing! Nothing!
Here's what we know about the
Her eyes were red at the end.
Arkansas plane crash. If you're unaware, on Wednesday, February 22nd, a small plane carrying 5 environmental workers from CTEH crashed shortly after leaving the Bill and Hillary Clinton National Airport. This plane, which was a twin-engine Beech B-2000, happened to be responding to an explosion that occurred at an Ohio metal plant, which killed 1 worker and hospitalized more than a dozen. The Pulaski County Sheriff's Office confirmed all workers on board the plane were killed. The plane's destination was the John Glenn International Airport in Columbus, Ohio, but crashed in Little Rock, Arkansas for unknown reasons. The suspected cause of the crash was a line of thunderstorms moving through the Little Rock area, but the official cause has not been released. The National Transportation Safety Board has started documenting the crash site and the plane wreckage, and plan to release their preliminary report in about 2 weeks.
Let's see if you have nyctophobia. There's 5 levels in this phobia test.
How many of these are gonna watch from her?
So if you're too scared to make it all the way to the end, then you probably have nyctophobia. Let's begin. How would walking into this dark room make you feel? What about going downstairs in the middle of the night and seeing this? Now for level 3, imagine looking through a door and seeing this staring back at you. Then imagine waking up in the middle of the night, looking outside your window and seeing this.
It's time to
We're
move.
getting to level
Absolutely
5, the
not.
most scary level. I'll also be showing you a video, so get ready.
Jump scare, inbound in 3, 2, 1.
Let me know if you made it all the way to level 5, and which phobia I should do a test for next. Follow for more.
Creepy video.
Here's some of the most disturbing
What?
lost footage. On August 15th, 1989, a man pulled to the side of Interstate 205 after his car overheated. Him and his son decided to go and find the nearest phone for help, but discovered a jacket not too far from the car. Under the jacket was an unlabeled VHS tape, but they were not prepared for its contents.
My hell. The whole sky's black with smoke. The fire department's trying to put it out. What a laugh. Look at it no more.
The cameraman was standing not far from a house completely in flames while whispering strange and eerie phrases to himself. The footage was given to the police, but they were unable to identify the house or the cameraman. The jacket that the tape was found with was also searched by police, and they found a wooden pestle and a ceramic skull, which made them suspect the arsonist was a devil worshipper. It wasn't until the tape was featured on the show Unsolved Mysteries that the house was identified. The house was located in Redwood City, about 80 miles from where the tape was found. On the night of the fire, the Woodside fire captain also recorded the burning house, and the videos were soon found to be a confirmed match. Redwood City Police
did not look like a
Detective Mark
match.
Polo stated that he already had 2 suspects. Both were minors. After questioning the pair, they both admitted to starting the fire. One was sent to juvie while the other was committed to a mental hospital.
Your answer crazy all for the love of you. It would be a highway marriage. I had a for the carriage.
What was it? The Aboriginal friend. Ew. He's a witch. I'd be like, nope, and turn around. It ain't even worth continuing my little walk. Nope.
Here's some horrible diseases that have no cure. One thing many people know about but do not take seriously enough is the rabies virus. As scary as it sounds, this viral disease is the closest thing we have to a zombie virus.
I don't know who he's talking about, because down here in the South, yeah, we do. We take that shit very seriously. Like, anytime a dog is acting erratic or some shit, we're like, oh yeah, that's rabies. Step away. Just don't walk. Just don't walk, run.
Will become infected with rabies after they are bitten by
Or take your clothes off and throw them at the dog. Maybe that'll work for rabies dogs too.
something or someone infected with it. What's even scarier is this virus can lay dormant in your body for up to 7 years, but people usually show symptoms after 3 to 12 weeks. When symptoms start, you may get flu-like symptoms such as a fever and headache. This stage can last for days before the real...
Yeah, I'm sorry to stop it again, but like, y'all ever notice that like every side effect to every disease and every side effect to every medication is always nausea, vomiting, diarrhea, and a headache? How are you supposed to know which one you got?
Torment begins. You will begin to stay up for days, eventually going insane from sleep deprivation. You will also experience extreme thirst, but drinking anything will cause your voice box to painfully spasm. Nothing will start to make sense anymore, and you will become extremely violent and start hallucinating. This is because the virus causes your brain to swell up so much it cannot comfortably fit in the skull. You'll eventually lose control of all your muscles, inevitably leading to death. During these later stages, there is nothing that can be done to help the infected. In all of medical history, only 10 people have survived the end stages of the virus. Although there are many preventable measures you can take, such as vaccinations, when it comes to rabies, there is no cure.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, that's the video. Make sure you do hit that subscribe button if you want to follow along and give me a free birthday present.
Have you ever wanted to detox fast?
Excuse you. And make sure you hit that like button so we can share this with others. If you see or know someone else who needs to see these videos, send it right over to them, baby. And I will see you guys next time. Bye!